Hello, I want to make a short video about our culture and feminist use of politically correct language in all cases regarding all people besides men. This is a little bit about man versus bear and a little bit about, use of correct pronouns, my thoughts on both of those things because I didn't make a proper video on the man versus bear issue. I only made that video from a conservative point of view, saying that I thought our culture, the old culture, was one that was put in place to protect women from the type of sexual assault that they made the entire man versus bear thing about. So I want to speak more about man versus bear in terms of my thoughts regarding it and men and how it is an attack on men. So I do see man versus bear as an attack on men. In most of the posts that I see women make about it, and many of the memes coming from feminist pages, it does appear to be an attack on men. And the major way in which it is an attack on men is that feminists essentially took man versus bear, the question, which was just about men versus a bear, and they replaced the word man with rapist, so that, and in so doing, they were able to make the entire thing about sexual assault. So essentially, they took the word man and made it synonymous with rapist, which to me is an attack linguistically on men because they are saying that men are rapists. I know they would say, oh, then it's a misunderstanding or whatever, but essentially, this is what you do when you make the entire thing about sexual assault. Because we had a question, man versus bear, and they answered the question as if the question was rapist versus bear. We have to wonder if they asked the question woman versus bear, would they answer it in the exact same way? And from the comments that I read, no, they wouldn't answer it in the exact same way. Yet, these are the same people who claim to be egalitarian and who claim that gender is just a construct and that men and women are essentially the same, and that and I think if men and women are exactly the same, if you are an egalitarian and you subscribe to those theories, then you would be able to admit that women are also rapists. So why would you not say no to woman versus bear and say you choose the bear over woman as well? However, we can see with like memes like this, where I'm going to put one on the screen, where they show all these women in the forest with a bear walking away from the guy, the nice guy, that essentially they are making it out to be that men are rapists and women are not. And this, therefore, is an attack on the word men. And I want to talk about that in terms of a linguistic thing. We live in a culture where we are taught to be politically correct and to be mindful of the other person. And we can see this through pronouns and how our current culture is very concerned with what we call people who are non-binary or transgender or so on, that we're supposed to use the correct pronouns. And I want to talk about my thoughts on this because it comes up a lot also in the interviews that I have made where people are talking about pronouns and I basically just go along with whatever they say and so on. But in terms of me personally, I do agree that we should be respectful to people and use the pronouns that they ask us to use, right? So if you tell me that you want me to call you this, I would, because I believe in cultivating a culture that is friendly to all people and where people feel comfortable and where people feel respected. So if you tell me that you are hurt by me saying the wrong pronoun, I agree that I should be mindful enough to respect what you're saying. Even if I don't understand the internal workings of you or why, and I can't relate to your lived experiences, I can respect your experiences and respect what you're telling me enough to be mindful and to be kind. So we have a culture that they are trying to promote, which is to be kind in this respect and to be linguistically kind and to all groups, especially minority groups, right? And we're saying be kind to the 5% or whatever who are different and who have different identities and so on. But we can't be kind to the majority. We can't be kind to the 50%. We can't be kind to men. We can't include men in that sort of let's be linguistically kind. We're okay to take the word man and equate it to rapist, and it's no problem to hurt 50% of the population by saying essentially man versus bear is the same as asking rapist versus bear. So when men fight back and say not all men, which has been the response to yes all women, me too, and I choose the bear in general, men have tried to say not all men. Please be careful about how you use the word men, how you use language with respect to us, which is essentially the same as someone who is, let's say, transgender or non binary saying, hey, please be careful what you say to me. Please be careful about the speech you use. Then you get responses like this in this meme or comic or whatever it is called today. You have someone saying, what happened to you? Someone ran over me. And then the guy responds, not all drivers run over people. So this is the man saying not all men. And then he says, I'm a driver. I never ran over anyone. Not all drivers. Screw you. Not all drivers run over people. And he walks away. So he's clearly just being a self-centered, non-compassionate person for saying not all men. He's making it about himself and saying not all drivers run over people. So I have no compassion for you. So when men complain about the use of language against them, they get made fun of and told that they're non-compassionate and that they are essentially terrible people. And I would argue that it's far worse to be called or equated to being a rapist than it is to be misgendered, because I mean a gender is not terrible, but everyone can agree that rapists are terrible. Then you have another comic here that I'm going to put on the screen. And it says, a woman is talking to a guy and she says, the point is, we don't want to choose the bear, boo. So you need to look within yourself and figure out why I'm making that choice. Right? So this is posted by Fight the Patriarchy, a feminist Facebook page. And this is just a way that they are completely shifting the blame away from anything to do with themselves and saying, we don't want to choose the bear. So you need to look within yourself and figure out why I am making that choice. So I don't want to make that choice, but I'm still making that choice. So you need to look inside of you and figure out why I am making that choice. I don't know how, how much more weird this could get, because she's making a choice that doesn't seem logical, but she wouldn't blame herself for making that choice. She wants to blame someone else. So she's blaming men. And when men complain about that, then they get laughed at and said, yeah. And that good guys are doing nothing. And all of the blame is just put on men to fix the problem of why women are choosing the bear. So essentially, men have to fix the problem of women discriminating against them and using discriminatory language, because they have decided to equate man with rapist. And that has to be fixed by men not being rapists, while most men are already not rapists. I think we can all remember the slogan, teach men not to rape, which was a big deal with Yes All Women around that time. And this is why men initially started to say not all men. So it came from this whole teach men not to rape slogan. And I think it's really important because, again, it's language that says teach men not to rape, putting all men in the same category as rapists. And it's also language that genders the issue of rape by making it seem like men are always the perpetrators of rape. So men are always the rapists and women are always the ones who are receiving the rape. And as you can see in films like Baby Reindeer, men are sometimes raped and women are sometimes the rapists or the sexual assaulters or perpetrators. Everyone should know that from real life, right? So making it seem like teach men not to rape is a valid thing to do. It basically makes it harder for male rape victims to identify what's going on with them and to speak about it and to come out. And it makes it much easier for women rapists, for perpetrators who are rapists, because they don't get identified as easily, even by their victims. So we have this very weird feminist dynamic of, again, sort of the man is the oppressor, he's always to blame, and there's no accountability on the woman's side. It's just, the men are to blame for everything. They're to blame because of sexual assault, and then they're to blame because they're not fixing sexual assault. So whether they are, it doesn't matter what they're doing in society, they're just blamed. I'd like to end the video with a comment that was made in Women Against Feminism. I'm going to put it on the screen, and it says that someone made a comment saying, "Why doesn't anyone remember where the bear hypothetical and stray dog hypothetical started? I grew up with it as a kid back when white supremacists and hate groups were using it to prejudice black or gay folks. Would you rather trust a bear in the woods or a black man? Would you rather trust a stray dog in an alley or a black man? Would you leave your child with a bear or a gay male? It was used to prejudice black folk and gay males, and now it's being used to prejudice males as a whole. I thought it was a joke for a start, but people are actually literally thinking it's okay to use old hate group material in a new format of prejudice against males as a whole. Crazy." So this type of question has been used historically to gauge prejudice, and it is being used again. And I think we can see that if many people in society do see it this way, then there is some sort of prejudice against men. And I think you can say, okay, to be fair, we can flip this around, and feminists do this, and MRAs do the same to women, or whatever. We can say it's all equal there. But the difference is that if you go out into the streets and ask about women in such a way, I don't think I hope that men would not respond in that way towards women. But with time, I'm sure culture will probably get there with the way things are going. Anyway, I just wanted to say that and to ask a sort of important question. Why is it that we can see that we should not use derogatory language and should not equate groups of minorities with negative stereotypes? Why can we see that with respect to minorities and people who are in other marginalized groups and so on, the 1%, the 5%, the 4%, the 8%, but we can't see that with respect to the 50%. It's also a problem. We can't see that equating men to rapists is a problem for a large group of men because men are 50% of the population. Is this a strange question? That's my question.